I had never believed that I would find my true passion deep within the wilderness among guns, the untamed roar of nature, and the thick forest. Yet that's exactly what happened this past summer in the southern mountains of Canada, where I not only confronted wild boars head-on, but also realized just how powerful and courageous I could be. The hunt began in a small town near the Purcell Mountains at the southern edge of British Columbia. I'm one of the few women in the area who pursue wild boar hunting, a species considered invasive and destructive to crops, yet also a brutal test for anyone bold enough to step into their territory. It was early morning, and mist still clung to the mountain slopes. I wore a light, camouflage hunting outfit and slung my trusty Browning .308 Winchester over my back. Just over an hour into the hike, I spotted tracks on the ground, clear signs of wild boars. Judging by the size and depth of the prints, I estimated a group of at least 10. I took out the fermented corn bait I had prepared earlier and scattered it on the ground. This area near the forest's edge is a frequent path for wild boars. The strong scent of fermented corn is irresistible to them. They simply can't pass up such an enticing treat. I set up camp about 60 meters away and began the wait. As long as the targets step into my sights, I won't give them a chance to escape. A short while later, I had to pick the biggest one. The boar let out a chilling scream and collapsed to the ground with a heavy thud. About 30 minutes later, a few more wild boars showed up. I fired again, but unfortunately the shot missed. After spending the entire afternoon tracking signs of wild boars, I finally found them. The gunshot echoed through the forest's edge, shattering the silence.
There's an old deer blind, old deer feeder there. I'll get a close up.
The wild boar collapsed into the bushes and lay motionless. By late afternoon, I got a call from an old hunting buddy. The invitation was intriguing enough for me to say yes. I could feel the open air rushing past me, with the faint scent of fresh grass and mud blending together, creating an atmosphere you simply can't find anywhere else. Over the course of about 3 hours riding the airboat, we managed to take down a good number of wild boars. But it wasn't just about the trophies, it was a testament to my resilience, patience, and survival instinct in the wild. People often ask me why I choose to hunt wild boars instead of taking on something easier. For me, hunting isn't about killing, it's about balance. In southern Canada, wild boars are growing in numbers at an alarming rate. They tear up crops, gnaw at roots, and damage the ecosystem. Hunting them is my way of protecting the forest. I don't hunt for fun. I hunt out of responsibility.
me, this trip was more than just a regular hunt. It was a life or death mission. Although I fought, trained, and faced countless dangers during my time in the military, I've never encountered a creature as tough and persistent as the wild boars. That's why, in today's hunt, this swamp environment became a true battlefield. Holding my rifle tightly, I understood one thing clearly: every decision, every shot must be precise. One bullet, one life. That's the only rule I needed to follow. Swamp-dwelling wild boars not only destroy the ecosystem but also cause immeasurable damage to the surrounding environment. They wade through wetland areas, disrupt plant life, and tear up rice fields and gardens. Especially in the swamp, wild boars can easily hide and escape, making them incredibly difficult to pursue. Compared to land hunting, hunting wild boars in the swamp requires us to move more slowly and patiently, or risk slipping or losing our bearings. The swamp, a challenging environment, is ironically the perfect place for wild boars to hide, especially in murky mud pools or thick vegetation. During the journey through the swamp, we constantly battled strong currents and had to duck under tangled branches to keep the boat from crashing. Eventually, a small boat brought us to a completely unfamiliar area. Suddenly, one of my teammates spotted the silhouette of a large wild boar. Without hesitation, we climbed ashore and fired as soon as we saw it. The boar collapsed after a single shot. Soon after, we locked onto our next target, a giant boar weighing up to 120 kilograms. It was clear that this land was the ideal habitat for these monstrous wild pigs. That afternoon, I traveled alone down the river. The current had calmed since the morning. From a distance, I spotted my first target, a boar soaking in the mud. I carefully approached. Just as it stood up to flee, I took my shot and brought it down within seconds. Muddy wetlands like this are never short of boar activity. A fully grown wild boar was sunbathing nearby. It sensed danger and started to run, but my two quick shots ended that escape for good. Spotting a boar trying to escape, I stopped the boat and set up an ambush to cut it off. It panicked and turned to flee in the opposite direction, but it was too late. The gunshots echoed through the empty swamp, ending its escape. Leaving the forest and heading downstream to return, I noticed small muddy patches, clear signs that boars had passed through. I moved in and there it was. Without hesitation, I pulled the trigger. The wild boar let out one agonizing cry before collapsing. With success in hand, I headed home, tension and satisfaction mixing after a challenging day in the swamp. After a night's rest, we were back at the swamp early in the morning. Wild boar tracks were visible all over the soft ground, deep prints showing where they had passed. We followed the tracks, and suddenly the dogs began barking, signaling the prey was near. I approached cautiously. As the black silhouette emerged, I seized the moment and pulled the trigger. Wow, just look at it, a massive wild boar with coarse fur and razor-sharp tusks. Our next target that day was a group of tenacious boars hiding in a swamp near a residential area. It didn't take long. The airboat brought us right to the first target. We immediately launched our attack, giving the boars no chance to react. They scattered in panic in every direction, trying to escape, but there was no getting away from our determined pursuit. Our hunting results kept piling up, and with every step, it became clear this hunt was not only tactical but also a test of patience and determination in our effort to control the wild boar population. Time flew by, and before we knew it, evening had fallen, but the battle wasn't over yet. Our agile hunting dogs led us to another wild boar. I moved in and, without hesitation, fired a decisive shot. The target dropped instantly. The dogs were outstanding today. Once again, they guided us to another boar. I quickly aimed and fired. The boar didn't even have time to react. It fell without a sound. It seems my skills have improved a lot through these hunting trips. These precise, decisive shots are not only the result of experience, but also the perfect blend of keen observation, patience, and refined tactics. Thank you for following this journey. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel.
Jesus.
The temperature in the forest was steadily dropping, snow was falling, and the biting cold wind seemed to cut through the skin, as if trying to block our steps. But no one gave up, because this was one of the journeys we had been looking forward to most of the year, the challenging winter wild boar hunt. Our hunting team is very large, with dozens of people. Most are locals, and a few come from other places. Our common goal is to hunt as many wild boars as possible. However, operating on thick snow during winter is not easy. Wild boars in Canada this season are very alert and cautious, slower, but more ferocious and tougher than ever before. Every step in the snow made a crisp, crackling sound. We tried not to make loud noises. As we moved, we searched for wild boar tracks. We discovered deep footprints in the snow, larger than an adult's palm, definitely a herd of wild boars. I looked up toward the distance. In the shadow of the trees, I heard dry branches snap. Many large, dark shapes slowly appeared. My heart pounded. They were a herd of dozens of wild boars, busily foraging, seemingly unaware of the approaching danger. We quietly moved closer to the herd's position, trying not to make a sound. Once in a safe spot, we gripped our guns tightly and aimed carefully at the vital points to take down the prey as quickly as possible. A gunshot echoed through the quiet forest. The bullet struck its body. The boar collapsed into snow, struggling. Not just one wild boar fell, but two one I shot, and another Paul took down. Around noon, we moved up a mountain. Here we found some herds of wild boars feeding. Small groups of about 3 to 5 wild boars, some larger groups. We focused on locating them through the scope, aiming for the head or chest of the animal, as that would kill it the fastest. On the high hill, gunshots rang out continuously. Probably hearing the gunfire, wild boars scattered and ran deeper into the forest. By early afternoon, Team 3 reported that they spotted a mature herd of wild boars moving southward in the forest. If we didn't keep up, we would lose their trail. We immediately tightened our formation and gave chase. The snow grew thicker, and the wind whipped against our faces like knives. Falling snow limited our visibility, making it difficult to hit the target. During the wild boar hunt, in the snowy forest, visibility and experience are the most important factors. You can miss giant prey and even face hidden dangers without experience and skills. We are lucky to have learned from experienced hunters in the area, so every hunt is carefully prepared. After the wild boars are hunted, we gather and transport them to the collection point. Winter helps preserve the meat longer, so most of it is sent to processing plants. The boar meat is processed into wild game meat and consumed locally. The winter wild boar hunt in Canada is not for the faint-hearted. Snow, cold, and wild animals with killer instincts demand absolute precision, every shot, every step. But it is precisely those heart-pounding moments that make us feel truly alive, amid the harsh nature, amid survival challenges. Today's video ends here. How do you feel about today's video? We hope it brought you an interesting topic. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel.
falls over Florida, it's not just about peaceful silence, it's also the time when dangers lurk from the deep woods. Wild boars, one of the most destructive invasive species here, often use the cover of darkness to wreak havoc and cause chaos. That's why night hunts have become a mission we hunters can no longer postpone. Follow this intense journey to see how we take them down.
Monster.
The moment we set foot in the area, we encountered our first wild boars. Through the thick interweaving foliage, we clearly spotted their silhouettes in the scope, ranging from massive adults to tiny piglets, all foraging for food. After closely observing their movements, we raised our rifles in unison and fired. Gunshots roared through the silence of the night, shattering the stillness. Some boars dropped instantly, while the rest scrambled to flee in panic. Stop. Staying on their trail, we seized the moment, aimed and pulled the trigger. Our agility and precision helped us win this tense encounter. We calmly waited for them to step fully into range. And then, Hubert and I fired round after round toward the herd. Sparks flew from the muzzle, flashes lighting up the night sky, followed by deafening cracks. The final blow to those savage beasts. I quickly swung my rifle to the left, where a group of wild boars was moving through the grass. This would be our next target. The instant the first shot rang out, chaos erupted. The herd scattered in every direction, desperately trying to escape. They tried to spread out and flee in all directions, but some unlucky ones couldn't evade our sights or the relentless chase. Prepared for the next challenge, and this time the prey didn't disappoint. A fat, hefty herd stood right before us. They rooted around blindly, eyes glowing eerily in the dark. My heart pounded faster as I slowly pulled the trigger. The bullet flew straight and true, taking down one of them cleanly. After a short break, we switched tactics, this time focusing on lone boars. The gunshot echoed across the quiet night, dropping the target instantly. Fueled by our earlier victories, we dove into our second round of the night hunt with even more determination. As the night deepened, the boars came out in greater numbers. Some herds had over a dozen individuals, always alert despite their activity. Using a mix of patience and stealth, we crept closer. When the time was right, our entire team opened fire, taking down targets swiftly. The night wore on, the chase continued, and we collected an impressive list of successful takedowns, one after another. Barely having time to enjoy our recent wins, we spotted more boars from our lookout point. Everyone quickly took their positions, raised their rifles, and fired. A volley of accurate shots from experienced hunters ended the encounter in no time. Round after round flew out and reloaded rapidly. The number of wild boars eliminated had reached dozens, an almost unbelievable count. Without this operation, it's hard to imagine the damage these beasts could have caused to the nearby fields. In the pitch-dark forest, danger from wild boar attacks could strike at any moment. That's why precisely pinpointing their location was absolutely critical. Their silhouettes move, sometimes gather, sometimes scatter. Whether they were solo or in groups, our shots took them down swiftly. We packed up the spoils of our hunt with pride, keeping up this grilling mag pursuit. And that brings our hunt to a close. Thank you for joining us on this wild adventure. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel.
We once believed the fight against wild boars was nearing its end, but no, they've come back, and with far more destructive force. Especially in the swampy forests of southern Florida, where the wild boars have been ravaging farms for weeks. That's why we continue to take up arms and battle them to protect our crops. Early in the morning, we headed to the pre-scouted hunting grounds. The moment our boots hit the earth, we could feel the sticky dampness of the ground beneath us. The air was thick and suffocating. As if warning us of a harsh day ahead, we moved toward the forest's edge where the swamp bordered nearby farmland. Wild hogs often came there in search of food. They also roamed the fields, tearing up the soil as they foraged. After the gunshots were fired, the wild boars scattered around us, and we had to rely on off-road motorbikes to be able to find the targets. Rich held the wheel steady while Daniel and I gripped our rifles, aiming at the boars as they moved into the sights. Gunshots rang out one after another, shattering the morning silence. The noise sent the hogs into a panic. making them run even faster. But no matter how fast they were, they couldn't outrun the bullets. After taking down those wild hogs, we kept moving and headed toward recently harvested wheat. The sun had just risen above the horizon, casting a pale golden light through the thin morning mist, an absolutely stunning scene. But there was no time to admire it. The hogs usually leave the fields before full daylight, retreating to the forest to escape the harsh midday heat. A full-grown boar appeared. I had no time to hesitate. Slowly, I raised my rifle to my shoulder, lining up the front sight squarely on the south shoulder. I squeezed the trigger. The gunshot cracked through the air. The boar let out a roar. I wasn't sure if it was hit, but it ran. I quickly gave chase and fired another shot this time. It went down. By late morning, we arrived at the forest's edge, a vast area with swamps, an ideal place for wild boars. The ground was damp and soft, yet oddly familiar. This was the boars' favorite environment, where they dig burrows, wallow in mud, and rest. A burst of gunfire followed, leaving the wild boars with no chance to flee. After about 30 minutes of chasing, we brought down several of them. After marking and recording the coordinates, we continued deeper into the area. Our new target was the remaining herd. On an old map I carried, there was a small swampy lowland not far from here. If my guess was right, they'd head there to escape the heat. This area was dangerous, but I was familiar with it. If you're well prepared and know how to adapt, danger rarely shows itself. Several wild boars had been taken down. We moved in, checked to confirm they were dead, then tied them up and dragged the carcasses out of the swamp. Once again, mud, blood, and scorching sunlight mixed into an indescribable feeling. Our journey ends here. Make sure to hit like and subscribe to get the latest updates.